If you thought the bailouts were bad, then the bail-ins are going to really shock you. This is something that happened in Cyprus where people's deposits were stolen right from them, and this was done right under their noses, and unfortunately they were not able to do anything about it. Why? Because they called a bank holiday. The people were shut out of their banks, and of course many individuals just keep their money in the banking system knowing that tomorrow everything's going to be okay. They'll be able to take their money out. It's better than putting it under the mattress and so on. So they keep their money in the bank. And here in Cyprus, they went in and dipped their hands in. Now, this is Canada's Economic Action Plan. This is right out of the government's website talking about what they're going to do, their proposition here. And it says Risk Management Framework for Domestic Systematically Important Banks. What are they talking about here? They said the government proposes to implement a bail-in regime for the systematically important banks. That's the exact wording they used in Cyprus, saying that they will implement a bail-in regime. What does that mean? Not using the taxpayer dollars, as they say. We're not going to use the taxpayer dollars. We're going to use what's on tap here at the banks. Now, whose assets are the banks? They are the individuals, the investors, the customers of that bank. That's whose money this is. And they're saying it's not the taxpayer money. It's not. Because that's the way they manipulate this. They can bend and mold this any way you want to say it. However, it's the taxpayer money one way or the other. Now, this is not indirectly like the bailouts were a few years ago. This is actually taking their hands, putting it into your bank, and pulling the money out, and then reopening the banks, and you're left with only a percentage of what was there the day before. Let's continue on. Just wanted to make a note once again. This is right on the Bank of Canada's website. The Canadian government announced its intention to institute a bail-in regime for systematically important banks. The same words being used. It's a talking point being used over and over again. They're saying unequivocally that there will be a bail-in should they need it. They are putting this in the budget report. It's on all of the websites, the Canadian websites here, saying that they're going to do it. Now, is Canada alone in this? No, that is absolutely not the case. Cyprus was the model, and they're very small compared to the rest of the world, absolutely. But if you look at Canada and then you go on, I'll go into that in a minute, it's not just them. It is going to be proposed all over the world, and the next crash, they're going to need to implement this because they don't want to go the other route. It didn't work out so well because, it was less transparent and everything, it was less transparent, and they didn't really like this. They want something that is basically impossible to detect where it goes. It just deletes from your account essentially, and somebody else gets your money because the wealth is never destroyed. It's simply transferred. Look at my book. I wrote this here, and I want you guys all to read this as well. More bailouts, money printing, and government intervention will occur. Additional international organizations or funds will be created, and existing ones will have their powers expanded in order to save the economies around the world from collapse. And I was talking about various things right here, but essentially what I'm trying to link this here is that, look, the bail-in strategy is not, the bailout strategy is not the end of the road. There are many more things that they're going to accomplish here, and they're doing so very well, unfortunately. The bail-ins are the next step. This is something that many did not foresee, but really the point remains is that we're getting it in the budget report. We saw what happened in Cyprus, and here you are thinking, what should I do? Well, that's up to you to decide. However, it is pretty obvious to me that you need to protect your money, and that is to protect your family. You need to do that. As I was saying, this is not just in Canada, not just in Cyprus. Look at this right here. EU agrees banks bail-in deal. So they're saying that they're going to use the bank depositors' assets if they need to. This is not, of course, not going to happen necessarily. They're saying if they need to, because, of course, nothing ever happens or never crashes. They said the same thing in 1929, right before the crash, and, of course, that'll never happen. You know where I'm getting with that. Let me go on quickly. most Canadians deposit not at risk if a bank fails. So they're saying don't worry about it because the CDIC, which is equivalent to the FDIC, it's basically your insurance, your bank deposits. They're saying don't worry, if anything happens, we got you covered. However, if one bank were to go under, the CDIC, the FDIC would not be able to bail them out. They have but a fraction of the amount. They're simply there as, really just ceremonial and nothing but a waste of money because they actually could not even bail out one of the big banks. So why do they exist? They're there just simply to keep peace of mind so that people think I never need to worry about my savings because they're invested and they're insured and I don't need to worry. So I feel fine about putting my money in there. Well, the fact remains is that first they're going to go for the uninsured accounts, they're going to go for the retirement accounts, and then they're coming for these accounts that are quote unquote insured. But of course, they won't be insured when they have to admit that the insurance, the FDIC, CDIC, has gone bankrupt. If you want more of the truth, you need to get to themoneygps.com. You scroll down to the bottom and you fill in your email address here to join the Money GPS Insiders. And that is an extension of what I've done in my book on as well as the stuff on YouTube here. And you can get this and you can get the truth because you're not going to get that with the mainstream media propaganda.